Hello, everybody. Andy Nolch here with another KR number 5. And this one's about how Scientology saved the Earth. And I really mean that. Possibly. I just got some ideas here as to how Scientology has possibly saved the world, the planet. Now, I've heard of this theory that in the late 80s when OT-8 was released on the ship Freewinds, that apparently a lot of the wars around the world stopped, like a ton of them, and apparently it was because of a lot of OT-8s getting keyed out. Now, if anyone's listening to this and they're not a Scientologist, they would think that that's ridiculous. How can some people doing some therapy on a ship suddenly lead to wars ending? Well, there's a theory, and a lot of New Agers actually sort of believe this, and Scientologists believe it, and it's basically that the vibes you put out affect the world. And so if you've got someone putting out really good vibes, it can just bring everyone up. It's called bring everyone up tone. We call it in Scientology. It's the theta and theta ratio. Anyway, it brings people up, right? And you might think, okay, so if someone's living with someone else and someone gets more happy, then that can make the other person more happy as well because they're helping more around the house or something. That makes sense. But I'm talking about more on a spiritual level where you don't have to do anything physical. Literally, we're all like a piece of energy and we all put out vibes. And if you get a bunch of people doing this OT-8 and they get really keyed out and they get really big wins and they're putting out really good vibes, I believe that it's possible that can make other people who are usually negative start putting out good vibes as well. And so it brings them positive as well. And so that's why I think that people on a ship in the Caribbean can somehow affect someone in Russia or someone in South Africa. Because of this theory of vibes. And New Agers talk about it as well. Like they talk about, everyone getting positive and it brings everyone up. And there's also people who would do they practice, apparently there's this thing where you get they've done experiments with it where you get 1,000 people meditating all at the same time. And a whole area of the earth, somehow they measured it, people become a lot happier. So it's that same theory. It's like where you get a group of people vibrating, becoming better and vibrating more high and positively or whatever when they're doing their meditation, and it affects a whole part of the world. Look into it. I'll Google that. But it's true. I believe that you can affect, and a lot of Scientologists know this because everyone has problems with their family members or whatever, and they've noticed that when they get a win in session or something like that, particularly when they're doing a PDS rundown or something like that, someone else in their family magically somehow changes. But they weren't going in session. It was just the Scientologist who was going in session, but it affects people around them. Have you ever noticed that someone who's negative is just a mood killer and they don't even really have to do anything and just kills the mood? They just got bad vibes. I don't know. Before I got into all this unusual stuff in Scientology and that, I wasn't really aware of this, but I do, as I've become more and more positive and gotten more and more into Scientology, and other practices, but that's not squirreling. It's looking after the body, by the way. But that's a whole nother video. You Scientologists need to look after your bodies more. Scientologists tend to have this attitude where they're just screw the body, who cares about that? And it's just look, I hate the body as well. It's not good being in a body. Okay? But, damn, is body and DNA powerful and all that sort of stuff. It's just whoa, what a trap the body is. You have to be healthy and look after yourself. Anyway, so let's talk about vibrations and all that sort of stuff. Oh, totally lost track. See, I've done a lot of Scientology, and I haven't really had improvements in my memory. I have had improvements in all these other things, and one day I hope that Scientology can really get my memory going good. But that's one thing I would really like to have handled. So I was on a train of thought about something. I was talking about something. Yeah, so it's just a vibration thing. Yeah, you bring the vibrations up. A group of people can bring the vibrations up, and it can solve things like war. And I don't know. I wasn't around in the late 80s when all this bunch of people were doing OT8. So I can't comment. But, you know, I believe that it is possible that them doing OT8, like, put an end to, like, a bunch of wars across the whole world. I think that's possible. There was a time when I was in session once on objectives. I noticed this gradually in Scientology. The more I've just become more healthy and positive, the more I brought other people up with me. Anyway, so I've noticed that, yeah, the more I brought other people up, but there was a moment where I was doing some objective processes, and I really noticed a sudden change in everyone in my environment. And that's kind of what I want to talk about, because to me, that could be how these OT8s could have saved the planet, because it was a really similar situation in that I was doing an objective process, and suddenly, I think I got some wins or something, and suddenly people started becoming more uptone environment, right? So we had the course room and stuff, and the supervisor was one money, and she knew it as well. And so she literally stopped being as one money and started to being more uptone. And my auditor, my twin, became more uptone. And the room, like, it was like people in the room were more like buzzing and excited, as opposed to being like sort of apathetic in that. And I think I noticed like my family was more positive as well. But it was really weird. It was like a whole shift in my life. It was like, whoa, did I just key out the whole of Melbourne? Like, honestly, it seriously felt like that. It was just like, whoa. You know, this is kind of weird. Like, why is everyone suddenly more positive and, you know, what the hell? And I've noticed that if I get keyed in, I think it can key in other people, can lower people down as well. And the opposite is true as well. Like, have you ever noticed how if someone's pissed off and they walk into a house, they'll just piss everyone else off? It's kind of a similar thing. Like, whereas if someone walks into a house and they're positive, and it brings everyone else up and makes them positive. So I actually honestly looked around. I felt like, whoa, if I keyed out the whole of Melbourne or whatever, and even I think like stuff that was on the news became a lot more positive. And it was kind of like, whoa, if I like keyed out the whole world, like it was pretty weird, you know. It was good though, because look, I'm pretty cocky, and I'll be honest, like I think I'm a big Thetan, and I just thought, gee, you know, maybe I'm a real big Thetan, and whatever keyed out in my case was able to really change the world, you know. And it was really, really interesting. So that's why when I heard about the OT8 thing on the ship, I was kind of like, oh, that's not that unusual, because I could see how... Because apparently OT8 handles, like, some serious stuff, you know, like real case. It's not an objective processes are just light processes. They're at the bottom of the bridge. So if I had this experience on the bottom of the bridge, I couldn't imagine what it would be like up at OT8. And you got more than one person doing it. So, yeah, I was kind of like, wow, is that really true? And there's this theory that's like, that apparently there's all these parallel universes, and this has nothing to do with really Scientology, but there's a theory there's all these parallel universes, and if you start thinking of a new, if you start thinking of like, let's say you've got a bad job, so you start thinking that you have a good job, right? You somehow shift into this new reality where you've got this new job. I don't know, but parallel universes is the weirdest theory. But if you have somebody and they've done a process, like they've done some Scientology and they become more positive and they start thinking positive or something, and they shift into this new reality, this new parallel universe, then I could have in the win that I had on objectives, and these OT8s back in 1988 or whatever could have shifted into some parallel universe, right, where things are positive and wars end. And I've been messing around with, I've been trying to look into the whole source of reality for a while, and I've been thinking about it. Because I don't know, but like, it's just funky because I've just noticed that ever since I found out about, because from Scientology you learn about postulates, and it's like you make a postulate, so you make a postulate, I'm gonna have a good job, or you make a postulate that I'm gonna be a really good bike racer, right? Or a postulate that I want to end wars, or there's no wars. And L. Ron Hubbard said that if you postulate and intend that to happen, that thought can make it happen, right? And this parallel universe theory might be how it works, right? It's something to do with quantum physics or something. Because there's all these, right now, there's all these different realities going on. One where I'm here, one where I'm in a yellow t-shirt, one where I'm black, one where I'm a chicken, right? Or something like that. And if you shift your thought, your thinking, it's like tuning a radio station, right? And you're tuning from 104.1 to 104.2. And so you go 104.2, you change your thinking, you shift it to positive where wars end, right? And it shifts into the new reality where wars end, and then you continue on in that timeline where the war has ended. And I actually thought, like when I first got into Scientology years ago, have I shifted into some sort of parallel universe or something? Because I was like, life is not at all what it used to be. Like, it's so different. I was just thinking, like, and when I had that big winning session, it was kind of like, whoa, have I gone into Bizarro World? Have I just, like, gone into a whole different world? Like, what the hell? And that's why it's a little bit freaky, because, like, I think I'm starting to understand how to create my own reality. It's kind of like create my own universe. It's kind of like what the PDCs talk about, where you create your own universe with your own thoughts, and it's really funky, and somehow everyone has come with me into this new universe or whatever, but it's, you know, scientists haven't fully worked out what's going on, but look into quantum physics, it's really interesting. So these OT8s or whatever, and Scientology just in general, could be continuously keying people out, and people are postulating these new realities of the future, right? And if it wasn't for Scientology doing that, right, either with the auditing tech and with just the tech to teach you about how to postulate, if it wasn't for that, it's possible, like if it never happened in 1950, it's possible in like 1970 or something, World War III could have happened and would be living in some sort of like 1984 type crazy science fiction horrible scenario. So, you know, anyway. So I believe that it's genuinely a realistic possibility that Scientology has saved planet Earth from being a really, really bad place. And people out there who are the skeptics who will be laughing at this video and all this sort of stuff, I mean, they'll be laughing at this video, but they haven't really actually studied any of the stuff that I'm talking about. They're not even, but anyway, they're somehow caught up in my reality or whatever, or keyed out people's reality, or people who are being positive with their postulates. And so they're just going along with it. And to me, they do seem like they're kind of like sheeps, and they're not really creating their own reality, and they're just going along with it. So I create a positive reality. They come along with me. Okay, cool. I'm helping them out. So, you can say thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome, skeptics. So if Scientology didn't exist, they would just be going along and because they're just like pawns in a game of chess, right? By the elites, the evil people. Anyway, so that would just be going into the crazy World War III type scenario, like sheep into that scenario. But I'm bringing them somehow into my universe, like sheep into my positive scenario. So, yeah. And so anyway, so if you want to mess around with reality and all that sort of stuff, just start thinking, because it's kind of fun. Just start thinking, like positive. And I do it all the time. Like I'll make a postulate, right? Like I remember I wanted a couch like a few months ago, and I honestly know that postulates work. Like I know that this is like at least the small postulate where you think something it can come true can actually work. Like think you're going to get a good job and it can happen, or think that you're going to find a pair of shoes and you'll find one, right? It can actually work. Like I did it once where I thought like, I want to get a couch, right? But I didn't want to pay for it. It was just the thought, I'll get a couch. I'll come across one. And of course I just came across one. And then I had another thought as well years ago that I don't want to have to get a new toothbrush. And my toothbrush has lasted forever. I've got like an invincible toothbrush that never dies. You know what I mean? Like, it's actually funny. And some Scientologists, I heard of a Scientologist who had a electric shaver that ran out of batteries, and he like thought hard or something, and it went from empty battery to suddenly full battery, and it stayed on full battery for like 2 weeks. And another thing, see, this is all bizarro world. I know. You think this is made up, but I'm not making this stuff up. Like, you have to see this toothbrush. It's amazing. I'll be keeping it forever, as evidence in that. There's another scenario where I came home once and a torch was randomly on in the house, like just a torch that was on the bench that someone had left there was on, right? And I kind of thought it was like paranormal phenomena, like, because I know I've seen a ghost actually in the house. I haven't seen the ghost, but I've seen the object move that the ghost was probably moving, and it moved a peg. So I know all this sort of stuff isn't. I know it's true because I've seen that. I saw the peg move with my own eyes. I was there, and the peg moved, and there was no wind or anything. I was just like, whoa, and I was like, well, it must be the ghost. Anyway, so when I saw the light on, I was like, oh, this could be like some sort of prank by the ghost or whatever. So the light on the torch stayed on for like 2 weeks. It was incredible. It was like, wow, what an amazing battery. And that to me wasn't that the ghost just pressed the on button and left it as some sort of practical joke. It was more because ghosts tend to do that. That's what they're losers, and they're literally losers. They are like such losers. They haven't moved on after dying. Like they set a record for loserness, but probably they're more brain damaged or implant ridden or whatever. So when the power stayed on that torch for absolutely ages, to me that was like, I thought that maybe it was a ghost putting the intention for the power of that torch to stay on for ages. And it was kind of like me when I put the intention to my toothbrush never break down, the bristles never break down. It didn't break down. It went reverse. Sorry, I didn't explain the whole story with the toothbrush properly. The toothbrush was old. And I was at that stage where I was going to get a new toothbrush, and I was like, oh, I don't want to have to get a new toothbrush. I want this toothbrush to be perfect forever, right? And then it went from having old, like worn out bristles to becoming stiff and hardened like it's brand new again. How trippy is that, right? And then it never wore away after that ever since. So I thought that was the same as the torch and the light staying on for ages. And that to me was some sort of postulate from the ghost or whatever. So thoughts can do stuff. So anyway, I just recommend messing around with it. And the trick is to just make a thought like, I want my toothbrush to be perfect forever, or I want my car tires to be brand new again, and just forget about it. That's a real important thing. You have to forget about it. So maybe write it down in your diary or something. Say, oh, I want to come across a free car, right? The harder they are, the more unlikely they are. But anyway, make the thought like, I want a free car or whatever, and write down your diary and just forget about it, and don't do anything trying to get the car or anything. And then a month, 2 years later, you'll find you'll just come across a free car. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Anyway, so I think that's it for my KR. I've got an interview, the podcast coming up with the Theta Meter King, Mikhail Fedorov, is going to be online soon. So take care, Indies, and get up that bridge, eh? Hey?